This is the Eclipse environment. I created a project called triage. So it automatically creates a source folder, and then in which I created different folders called feed forward, and again inside the feed forward I created a folder called train, and inside the train I created another folder called back propagation. Here I'm going to use the feed forward algorithm to build the neural network structure where we have input layer, hidden layer, and the output layer. And I'm using back propagation algorithm to train the network that would be created using the feed forward algorithm. So here we see files under the back propagation folder, backpropagation.java, another file called backpropagation layer.java, and under the feed forward folder we see two files called feedforward layer.java, feedforward network.java. And I created a file called triage.java. This is a client program where we provide input and the desired output and call these algorithms, both backpropagation algorithm and feedforward algorithm. We use feedforward to build the network structure. So we define how the structure is going to be, how many hidden layers we need to have, and how many neurons in each layer we are going to have. We will pass all that information from the client program, which eventually passes that information to the feed forward algorithm to create the input layer, output layer, and the hidden layer. And also we pass some information like the input information and the ideal desired output to the back propagation algorithm, and also we will pass the feed forward network layer to the back propagation algorithm to train the network. So we will keep that iteration, continue that, will keep iterating through that network to minimize the error by changing the weights. Now we will go through each and every class of this folder, both feed forward and back propagation, and then finally we will talk about the client program called triage.java where we display the output result. I just wrote the requirements in simple English for each of these classes. I'll be coding all these requirements soon. In the feedforward layer.java, we have two classes under the feedforward folder: feedforward feedforward layer.java and feedforward network.java. Feedforward network.java. This class works in conjunction with the feedforward layer.java. Layers are added to the feedforward neural network to specify the structure of the neural network. The first layer that is added will be the input layer. The final layer that will be added is the output layer. Any layers added between these two layers are the hidden layers. So here we'll create an object reference of feed forward layer for input and output layers. So these input and output layers are of type feed forward layer dot Java, and then we will have one more object called list that will hold all the layers of the type feed forward layer, and then we will write a function called add function. We'll call this function from the client program where we need to pass the number of layers, and we will pass that information to the feed forward network to add the layers. So here we need to write a function called add function that will add a layer to the neural network, because this is the place where we build a neural network structure. So the first layer added will be the input layer, and the output layer will be the final layer, and whatever there between those two layers will be the hidden layers. And also we will set up backward and forward pointers. So we need to have these pointers and to use back propagation algorithm. So these pointers are needed. Even the output of the input layer will be the input to the next layer. So this point, so we have established these pointers. We will be doing that. And also we will be writing a method to count the how many hidden layers are there in the network. This can be easily calculated by calculating the number of layers between the initial layer, which is input layer, and the final layer. And then we will write a method to calculate the error for this whole neural network, and then we will write a function to compute the desired out to compute the actual output for the given input to this neural network. Now we will talk about the feedforward layer.java. This class represents one layer in a feedforward neural network. So this basically, when we create a layer like input layer or hidden layer or output layer, each layer is of type feedforward layer object. So this layer could be input, output, or hidden depending on its placement inside of the feedforward neural network. And also we need to write a activation function. I created a activation function.java class here. You can see that. So in which we need to write a method to calculate the activation sigmoid. So usually all layers in neural network will use the same activation function. By default we will use sigmoid activation function here. So in this class we will compute the outputs of this layer given the input pattern, and these outputs will be the input to the next layer. So we will define the weight and threshold matrix. We will define extend previous layers, and also we will define the activation function for the current layer. This can calculate the activation function in the activation function.java class, where we create a method to calculate the activation sigmoid, and we will construct the layer with neuron count and activation function. So when the request comes from the feedforward neural network to the feedforward layer to create input layer or hidden layer or output layer, so this constructor The feed forward layer constructor will help us to create the layer with neuron count and activation function, and we'll write the functions for next and previous layers to travel through, like to go to the next layer or to go to the previous layer. We need to write the functions.